Tis here, he's just on mute.
Butler,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Corporal,
Yep.
Crampton.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Crooks,
Yes.
Davies,
Yes.
Delaney.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening. Drage,
Yeah. Hi.
Farmer,
Yes, I'm here.
Forster,
I'm here.
Kennett,
Yes, here.
Cannell,
Yes, I'm here.
Lamb,
I'm here.
Makepeace Brown,
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Neighbour. Switch your mic on, Councillor Neighbour. Councillor Neighbour. Okay, we'll come back to Councillor Neighbour. Councillor Oliver.
Yes.
Quarterman.
Yes.
Radley.
Yeah, I'm here.
Smith.
Yes.
Southern.
Yes, here.
Tomlinson. Councillor Tomlinson. Not with us. Wildsmith.
Yes, here.
That's Councillor Tomlinson just responding. Yeah.
Councillor Tomlinson just responded, and Councillor Wildsmith.
Yes, here.
Thank you. Warlock. Councillor Warlock.
Yes, present.
Thank you. Wright. Councillor Wright.
Yeah, thank you. Hi all.
Hi. Councillor Neighbour, have you got your sound
I'm back
working?
now. Sorry about that.
You're back now. Thank you. And of course, Councillor Dawn, who I can see.
Thank you. Right. Sorry, small issue just here in the chamber, trying to get the sound sorted for the external. Yeah.
Good evening, councillors. It's Darryl here. I hope you can all hear me. Someone just put their thumbs up that they can see me. Jane, could you put your thumb up to show you can hear me?
I can hear you, James.
Thank you. Right. Not usual for the Chief Executive to start the meeting off, but I do need to, in this instance, just to do a couple of things before we get on to the main meeting itself. I hope most of you would have read the crib, which will be in front of you. The first thing I need to do, because this is a first virtual meeting, and I just reinforce a note that Councillor Dawn would have said to you earlier on, please keep your microphones muted when you're not speaking. If you're struggling with the visual parts, just turn the visual bits off and keep it on audio. That helps with broadband. And please make sure your phones are silent. The other part is to start the meeting, I need to ask you to suspend standing orders. The Act allows various orders to be changed automatically by law, but I need to actually do parts that are not covered by the Act. And the first thing is to ask you to agree that we suspend standing orders 9.1 and 9.2, which relate to the chairmanship of the meeting. The other ones are show of hands for voting. We're going to do that by a recorded system with Jill reading them out. Clearly, we need to suspend the one that says you have to stand to speak. I'm not sure that's going to work at home. And the same goes that when the chairman stands, you should all go silent. I think that one's not going to quite work with a virtual meeting. So with your permission, members, can I have your affirmation that we can suspend those standing orders so that we can actually run this meeting properly, if that's okay? They are technical issues, they don't affect anything, but I need to do it just in case someone has a process issue. So I'm not sure whether we need a vote on this. Can I just find out if anyone agrees and disagrees very quickly, please?
Agreed.
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 That sounds. Thank you. That's a very good reason why we have to do recorded vote next time round. But thank you very much for your contributions. I'm going to take that as a yes. I assume nobody's going to say no. Just in case. Thank you very much for that. There may be some extensions, but I think the majority have said yes. So if you don't mind, can we move on to confirmation of the chairman of the meeting, which I'll introduce for you, which I think the group leaders had a discussion in advance, and it was recommended that Councillor Chris Dawn will perform for tonight the duties of the chairman of the meeting. I ask you to confirm that is your wish as well, and again, just shout out agreed if that's okay, and I'll ask for anyone who disagrees at the end, if that's all right, please.
Agreed.
Good. Yeah, I can hear lots of people saying. I hear lots of people saying yes. Can I just check that nobody says no? Is anybody saying no? I missed all that. I think that was okay. Is that right? So, good. I'm now going to hand you over to Councillor Dawn, because Councillor Dawn, I think the meeting has agreed that you'll be chairing this meeting for this afternoon or this evening. And thank you for you, all members, for indulging me at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Phillips, and thank you all for letting me take this slightly dubious honour. Right, good evening, everyone, and welcome. So the first thing, or the next thing on the agenda is the apologies for absence.
Apologies have been received from councillors Chris and Harwood, and I believe that Councillor Wheel is attempting to overcome the technology, and if she doesn't, then we will take her apologies.
Thank you. Right, nothing else to mention on that. We'll go on to item 4, which is declarations of interest. If you have any disclosable pecuniary or other interest to declare on any items of the agenda, you should declare them at this point, please. I'm not seeing any.
I have not received any, Councillor Dawn.
Thank you very much. Right. On to item 5, which is the chairman's announcements. The main thing here is the virtual meeting procedures, which you've all received the crib, and I hope you've read and digested it. Essentially, it tries to make it as similar to a normal meeting as possible, with the obvious constraints of the Teams and the virtual system. A couple of things I'd just like to draw your attention to. And item 2, which in terms of speeches being the normal length, we should have the traffic light system operating in here. And at that point, Miss Vincent will call out 30 seconds when there's 30 seconds left to speak of the usual 3 minutes. Please, as we've also said, have your microphones muted when you're not talking, and keep the chat facility for requesting to speak. The other thing, or when we come to obviously the formal votes, we will go through sequentially as we've just done for the roll call. Please unmute your microphone just ahead of your speech and mute it afterwards after you've given your vote. The last thing I just wanted to mention was that if we're still going at 8 o'clock, obviously we'd like to adjourn to support the NHS, and so probably a minute or two before 8 o'clock we'll suspend the meeting for about 5 minutes, and then everyone can go to wherever they feel most comfortable and suitable to do that. Right, in that case we'll now move on to item 6, which is questions from members. So under rule 14.2, Councillor Farmer wishes to ask the portfolio holder for place the following question, which I believe is on the crib there. Mr. Phillips, do you want me to read it out, or do you want Mr. Councillor Farmer to read it out? Yeah. Councillor Farmer?
Yes, I'm here, Chairman. Thank you. Okay, the question was as follows, and I will read it out. With reference to the sustainability appraisal of the Hart local plan, this is April 2020, which was published Appendix 2, Sustainability Appraisal Adoption Statement, which is for consideration this evening with recommendation B for the paper on the adoption of the Hart local plan. 2 amendments have recently been made to this report, and we were notified of these changes on the afternoon of Friday, 24th of April. Both relate to section 2.5, the SA report addendum March 2019, under the section appraisal of proposed modifications. And it's paragraphs 2.54 and 2.55. which have both been deleted, and they were originally published as follows. 2.54 read, however, it was a challenge to conclude with any certainty that either change leads to implications for the sustainability baseline or achievement of sustainability objectives. With regards to housing numbers, it is only increases in housing supply that enable sustainability considerations to be attributed with any certainty, although to increase the requirement would likely lead to a review of the plan being needed sooner, which would be a positive from a housing perspective, with tensions in respect of some community and environmental objectives. And then 2.55, which read, with regards to the deletion of the new settlement area of search, this was effectively the deletion of a process to start a DPD and not a deletion of a new settlement allocation. The DPD process may be replaced in time with a different process, most likely the next local plan, which would be subject to its own SA with a range of reasonable alternatives on the table. So the question coming from that obviously is, why were these paragraphs deleted from the report that was originally published, and why so late, less than a week before tonight's full council meeting?
Councillor Cockrell.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Farmer, for the question. Well, the background to the change is straightforward. It was entirely an officer decision using their professional judgment to seek an adjustment to the sustainability appraisal adoption statement at Appendix 2. And in the first instance, they were responding to issues raised by councillors last Wednesday afternoon. When there were suggestions made, the SA adoption statement supported Shapley Heath. Well, the sustainability assessment did not do that, particularly as its sole legal purpose is to look back at the local plan rather than set the scene for the future. I assume everyone can still hear me. However, the SA cannot set future policy. However, the officers reviewed the SA and reread paragraph 2.5.5. They quickly concluded that the wording used in the paragraph was plainly wrong. Not only was it badly framed in that it could be misconstrued, but more importantly implied something that was simply not correct and indeed was irrelevant to the purpose of the SA. The officers also were concerned that upon reflection, the wording of paragraph 2.5.5 of the SA was also directly in conflict with the local plan itself. I draw your attention to the inspector's main modifications in the paper attached as Appendix 1A, page 56. The modification states the council will review the policies in this plan within 5 years of adoption to assess whether they need updating. Policies will then be updated where necessary. An early review, that is prior to the 5-year period expiring, could be triggered by results of annual monitoring on the effectiveness of the plan, in line with the plan's monitoring framework, having particular regard to the monitoring of housing delivery, significant changes to national planning policy and or legislation, duty to cooperate issues, particularly addressing housing and employment needs within the housing market area or the functional economic area, which comprises Hart, Rushmore and Surrey Heath, and any other reasons that render the plan or part of it out of date. The AMR, which is the monitoring report, will report on the issues above and whether these will trigger a review. In addition, the council has an aspiration to plan ahead for long-term growth needs. This would reduce the risk of policies, particularly housing policies, becoming out of date and would provide greater certainty over the longer term. All reasonable growth options, including the potential for a new settlement, would need to be fully considered and evidenced in a future review of the plan or a subsequent DPD. That's what the inspector said. So it was quite proper, even at that late stage, for the officers to react to an issue highlighted by a member and to seek a view from the SA consultant and ask that it be made clear that the SA had to be consistent with the plan itself and that the two irrelevant paragraphs for the SA purposes be removed from the SA report so that the SA avoided any conflict with the inspector's findings and recommendations. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Cockrell. Councillor Spencer, do you have anything further to add?
No, I thank Councillor Cockerell for what was, of course, a comprehensive answer. But given the timing of the revised report, I did believe it was important for these deletions to be both transparent and for us to understand the process by which they had taken place. And I guess just for Councillor Cockerell to further comment and clarify, based upon his response, I assume that my understanding is therefore correct, that as portfolio holder for Place, he did not actually approve the deletion of those paragraphs before the report was issued.
Well, thank you for the subsequent follow-up. I had a conversation with officers who advised me of the issue, but I did not give them. It wasn't my place to tell them what to do. So they advised me in consultation that that was what they were going to do.
Thank you. Right. I believe that matter is now closed. So we move on to item 6 on your order paper, which is the adoption of the Hart Local Plan Strategy and Sites 2032. I think the best way to move forward with this is to ask Councillor Cockerell to very briefly introduce this, and then we'll go on to the recommendations as listed on the summons. Councillor Cockerell.
Thank you, Chairman. That's sort of my my bit tonight, I'm afraid. After this, you probably won't hear from me for a while. Well, members who have been around as long as me and some of you longer will know how difficult this process has been. We are at the end of the process. All we need to do now is agree the recommendations as set out in the order paper and adopt our local plan. I think it's a local plan that will be of immense benefit to Hart for the future development of the district, both in terms of our residential housing and in terms of our economic development. It does provide us with the opportunity, which we've always tried to do, to try and make sure that future development is comparative with future infrastructure needs, and that we don't end up in a similar situation to which we've had previously. I know I have thanked people before, but it's probably worth just thanking again all of the members and all of the officers over many years and from all different parts of the council who have helped us get to where we've got to. I'm hoping that all of the issues have now finally been ironed out and we can move forward to adopt the local plan and give everybody certainty as to the way forward. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Cockerell. Right, so moving fairly quickly then onto the first recommendation, for the whole plan, which requires a proposer and a seconder. Councillor Cockerell, will you be proposing this?
For the avoidance of doubt, Mr. Chairman, yes, I will propose recommendations A through D as listed. I don't know if you actually want me to recommend them separately or just recommend them as once and do a separate debate. Mr. Chairman, don't mind which you do.
My understanding from the monitoring officer is that we propose and second all of them together, and then we will debate and vote on each one individually, which is what's explained on the crib. In which case, we would welcome a seconder, please, from the meeting.
I'm happy to second it.
Thank you. Councillor Radley. Do people wish to speak to the first point of recommendation A, which is to adopt the Hart Local Plan Strategy and Sites 2032, proposed submissions version incorporating the inspector's recommended main modifications attached at Appendix 1. Councillor Crampton.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to say on behalf of my group that we support the local plan, especially as SS3, the Murrell Green Winchfield settlement, has been removed on advice from the inspector. And I remember when the local plan was voted through by the council, Some members at the time voted reluctantly in favour, reluctantly because SS3 was still in the plan. Some of us couldn't support the local plan while Winchfield Murrell Green site was still in it. However, the inspector found that SS3 wasn't necessary, we didn't need the numbers and the site hadn't been properly assessed. We therefore support the plan. We are also pleased to see that sections 2.54 and 2.55 of the sustainability appraisal have been deleted by our officers. They were indeed controversial and confusing, but the sustainability appraisal still seems to promote a new settlement at Winchfield Murrell Green in advance of any plan review or DPD, and therefore some of us have reservations. However, we do recognise that we can't vote against the SA and pass the local plan, as they both have to be passed to vote the local plan through. I would like to also just take this opportunity to congratulate the officers on setting up this virtual full council, which seems to be going quite well. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Right, I don't see any other requests to speak. I'll just give a moment there for anybody to unmute and say so. In which case we will then go on to the first vote on recommendation A. So as very similar to the way we did with the roll call at the beginning.
So can I just raise a point of order, please? I did type in that. Given that we're going to go through the motions of getting everyone to say if they're for or against anyway, shall we make it a recorded vote for the purposes of the minutes, and then it'll be consistent?
I'm looking at the monitoring officer because I believe in the explanation it said that although this is done in a similar style to a recorded vote, it is not a recorded vote unless people are asking for it.
Well, I am asking for it.
You are asking for it. Okay, thank you. In which case I believe then it's a recorded vote.
Hang on,
oh, stand by.
Yeah. Hang on, Chairman. He does need the support of some members for that.
Chairman, I would support that. I think it makes sense if we are recording. We are all going to have to give an answer verbally. We might as well record it for the recorded test. Otherwise, it's a wasted opportunity.
Okay, thank you. I also see statements from Councillor Makepeace-Brown, Councillor Bailey and Councillor Clark supporting that contention. In which case, it'll be a recorded vote. Right. Are you ready?
Yes. I'll read your names out as I usually do, alphabetical order, and we are voting on recommendation A, and you will say for, against or abstain. Starting with Councillor Ambler.
For.
Axum.
For.
Bailey.
For.
Blewett.
For.
Butler.
For.
Clark.
For.
Cockerell. Crampton.
For.
Crisp. Oh, is that not here? Crooks. Councillor Crooks.
For.
Thank you. Davies.
For. You get me? Yeah.
Yes, I did. Thank you. Delaney.
For.
Dawn.
For.
Drage.
For.
Palmer.
For.
Forster.
For.
I would not hear. Kennett.
For.
Canal.
For.
Lamb.
For.
Makepeace-Brown.
For.
Neighbour.
For.
Oliver. Quarterman.
For.
Bradley.
For.
Smith.
For.
Southern.
For.
Tomlinson.
For.
Wheel is still not with us. Wildsmith.
For.
Warlock.
For.
Right.
For.
Okay, that's a full team.
That's a unanimous vote for. Thank you very much. Right, we will now move on to recommendation B. I think somebody may still have their microphones open from the vote. Please do check and mute. Thank you. Recommendation B is to agree the content of the Sustainability Appraisal Adoption Statement, which is at Appendix 2. Does anybody wish to speak to that? Councillor Farmer.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I've just got a few points to make on the sustainability report. First of all, I do acknowledge that the report's, broadly speaking, a stage-by-stage summary of the, I think it's quoted as the plan-making essay story from 2014 through to this point. And obviously, Council is considering the adoption of the local plan this evening. And I also personally welcome the removal of policy SS3, the Winchfield Moral Green development, from the local plan. Second point is that I feel that the tone of this report of the conclusions reached, particularly in relation to SS3, do not, in my opinion, fully reflect the extent or tone of the concerns raised by the planning inspector in any of his recent reports. And I also feel that the tone of this essay report still conveys a position that's overly positive to the new development in the stated area of search, now referred to, of course, as Shapley Heath. And I think this is regretful. And thirdly, I've already posed a question to Councillor Cockerell this evening, asking why paragraphs were deleted from this report and why so late. And I feel that this did demonstrate initially a lack of transparency, although we dealt with that with the question and the answer this evening, and also an intent for or a statement of future intentions with respect to the new development. However, while I have some concerns on the sustainability report, I recognise that all 4 recommendations must be approved tonight for the local plan to be adopted, and therefore I will not go as far this evening as to vote against recommendation B and the agreement of the content on the sustainability appraisal adoption statement.
Thank you. Right, I'm not seeing any other requests to speak on the chat feed. I'll just give you a moment if anybody else wants to speak on that. Thank you. In which case we will now move to a vote on recommendation B. Are you ready, Jill?
Okay, we're now voting on recommendation B, and it'll be for, against, or abstain. Starting with Councillor Ambler.
For.
Axon.
For.
Bailey.
For.
Blewett.
For.
Butler.
For.
Park.
For.
Cockerell. Hampton.
Abstain.
Thank you. Chris. Crooks.
For.
Davies.
For.
Delaney.
For.
Dawn.
For.
Drage.
For.
Farmer.
Abstain.
Thank you. Forster.
Abstain.
Thank you. Kennett. Councillor Kennett.
Abstain.
Thank you. Kinnell.
For.
Lamb.
For.
Makepeace Brown.
For.
Neighbour.
For.
Oliver. Quarterman.
For.
Radley.
For.
Smith.
For.
Southern.
Abstain.
Joe. Tomlinson.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Wheels not with us. Wildsmith.
For.
Warlock.
For.
Right.
Abstain.
Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. With 7 abstentions and everyone else agreeing, that recommendation is passed.
Thank you very much. I just have a small query here from Councillor Makepeace Brown that this is also a recorded vote, and I presume that all 4 votes will be recorded, which is what we agreed at the beginning.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right, moving on then to, there's somebody still, I think it's Jill. Yeah. On recommendation C, which is to adopt a new policies map for Hart that incorporates the policies map changes associated with the adoption of Hart Local Plan 2032. Does anybody wish to speak to this particular recommendation? I'm not seeing anything on the chat feed. I'm not hearing anyone saying they'd like to verbally. So I believe we will then move straight on to the third vote, please, on recommendation C. Same.
And here we are all back again. Starting with 4 against or abstain. Councillor Ambler.
4.
Axum.
4.
Bailey.
4.
Lewitt.
4.
Butler.
4.
Park.
4.
Cockrell.
4.
Crampton.
4. 4.
Crooks.
4.
Davies.
4.
Delaney.
4.
Dawn.
4.
Rage.
4.
Farmer.
4.
Forster.
4.
Kennett.
4.
Canal.
4.
Lamb.
4.
Makepeace Brown.
4.
Neighbour.
4.
Oliver.
4.
Waterman.
4.
Bradley.
4.
Smith.
4.
Southern.
4.
Tomlinson.
4.
Wild Smith.
4.
Warlock.
4.
Right. Thank you. That's a full house. Everyone has voted for. That's unanimous.
Thank you very much. Right, last one, which is recommendation D, to authorise the head of place in consultation with the portfolio holder for place to make minor alterations and corrections to the local plan and updated policies map. Does anybody wish to speak to that? I'm not seeing anything. I'm not hearing anyone saying they'd like to. In which case, I believe.
Councillor Dawn.
Beg your pardon? Yep.
If I may.
Of course.
I've no objection to the proposal, but I think it would be useful if members were notified as and when any changes are made.
Councillor Cockrell, did you want to respond to that?
Yes, Chairman, that's a very sensible suggestion from Councillor Crooks. I guess we can discuss after the meeting how that's done, whether it's through Cabinet or through any other body. But yeah, if modifications, alterations do need to be made, I'm sure we can let members know.
But that's not changing the substantive motion, which remains as is. In which case, unless anybody else wishes to speak, I'll ask the officer to rerun the voting process, please.
Okay, the voting process as usual, 4 against or abstain, and we are voting on recommendation D. Councillor Ambler.
4.
Axum.
4.
Bailey.
4.
Blewett.
4.
Butler.
4.
Clark.
4.
Cockrell.
4.
Crampton.
4.
Crooks.
4.
Davies.
4.
Delaney.
4.
Dawn.
4.
Drage.
4.
Farmer.
4.
Forster.
4.
Kennett.
4.
Canal.
4.
Lamb. Councillor Lamb. Councillor Lamb, are you still with us?
I am here. Sorry, I'm playing with my microphone. 4.
Thank you. Makepeace Brown.
4.
Neighbour.
4.
Oliver,
4.
Quarterman,
4.
Bradley,
4.
Smith,
4.
Southern,
4.
Tomlinson,
4.
Wildsmith,
4.
Warlock,
4.
Councillor Wright.
4.
Thank you. Again, a full house. That recommendation has been carried.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Dawn, you're muted.
Thank you. Okay, just to say thank you very much to everyone. The Chief Executive would like to speak to you.
Chairman, can I thank members for their indulgence for this meeting and helping us get it to run it was a bit of a test run as well as a real important event. And just thank you for that. It's the first time we've done a virtual meeting. We're going to learn from how it went today. We are planning to put in an AGM on the programme date in 3 weeks' time, which would be another similar event. I would welcome any feedback from members individually. If you want to give me a quick note about how we could improve this at the moment. We're still learning the system, we're still developing it further, and we welcome what will make your lives easier in having meetings being run in this sort of format, and it will also help the officers prepare better for those meetings. Then we'll talk about bringing in a programme of bringing all the committees back up and running bit by bit over the next month or so. But can I just say thank you very much again for bearing with us and listening to the chairman and getting this important item through. But more importantly, thank you very much for all your help in getting this meeting run. And I think for the feedback I'm getting already from other staff who are watching, that it's actually been quite an intriguing and engaging event. And thank you. So good night to you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And good night to everyone. I'll declare the meeting closed. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Stay safe, everyone.
Before everyone
Good night.
goes,
Oh, yeah.
briefly,